In the next One Piece, try cutting through poison with your scissor hands, you dumb son of a bitch.
King of the Wetnow's gonna take you down, gonna take you down. Marineford Arc, yeah, it's getting hot now. It's getting hot now. King of the Wetnow's gonna take you down, gonna take you down. Marineford Arc, yeah, it's getting hot now. It's getting hot now. We've got a multi-act season, 1, 2, 3. So come aboard to brave this sea. Supernovas and mystery. Warlords, wars, and tragedy. King of the Wetnow's gonna take you down. Gonna take you down. Marineford Arc, yeah, it's getting hot now. It's getting hot now.
Celestial dragons, lowest of low. Overwhelming enemies, it's time to go. Luffy's gonna fight for his big bro, so now it's time to start the show.
Hello, fellow escapees of Impel Down. Bless the sun, for we have escaped. And welcome to another episode of King of the What Now?
King of the what now?
A One Piece podcast discussing the anime from the very beginning. I'm your host, Joel, longtime fan of the series, and, I'm the warden of the prison, or not!
Yeehaw! Hey folks, I'm Kat, I'm the ghost of the show, and I am the world's happiest shark! Look at me go! Woo!
You're so happy, people can bounce off of you without even connecting with your head, which is super weird, but...
Ivan's head is so large that it has its own gravitational force. I think is what happened.
That makes sense.
Reverse gravity, nothing can touch.
Shh. The physics around Ivankov work a little queerly, if you know what I mean.
It was terrible. Shame on you. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show, and let's get into chatting with the hosts. Now, Catherine, I believe you've been enjoying a certain piece of media.
Yeah, I've been enjoying Shadow and Bone lately.
But Kat, when I look up online, it says that there's 2 Shadow and Bone. There's a book and a Netflix. How very curious.
Oh ho, how very curious. No, I've been reading the book in preparation for the show.
Okay.
Because I heard that the show was going to include elements of Six of Crows, which is a book I read last year and really liked.
Okay, and that was a heist story.
Yes.
You might have even talked about it on the show, I assume.
I probably did. Oh, wait. 2019 was not last year. That was 2 years ago.
What is time?
What is time?
Okay, so give me the 50,000-foot view.
Of Six of Crows or of Shadow and Bone?
The thing that you're reading right now, yes.
Okay. Shadow and Bone is a story about a girl who didn't know she has magic powers, but she does have magic powers, and they're the most special magic powers, and she has to learn to use them to save her country.
Thank God we finally have a replacement for Harry Potter, because let me tell you, the 50,000-foot view, same story. Person who doesn't know they have magic actually has magic is super important, so now we can get rid of that old series and bring in Blood and Bone.
Yeah. So I really enjoy Leigh Bardugo's writing. I think that she is incredible. Also, her name might be pronounced Lee. I apologize if I got it wrong. I'm reading it the way that it's written. But she is a really talented author, and her world building in her Grishaverse, which is what she calls all of the books that take place in the same universe, is really solid. It's based in, like, Russia as the base country, kind of.
Okay.
Which is not something that I've seen in a lot of fantasy, so that's neat. And the magic system, while it is based on, your elements or whatever, I feel like she does her own unique things with it, and she really does a good job of crafting the way the world forms around it. I will say, Shadow and Bone was, like, her first published book, I believe, and having read her later work, you can really tell that it's her first book, but it is still good.
All right. Fantastic. I did watch the first episode with you, having read neither of the books, and you got so excited when a guy shows up, and I wish I remembered his name, and don't correct me, but he showed up, and I was like, oh, so this is like your favorite character from the book? And you went, no, Joel, this is my favorite character from the other book. And I was like, oh, okay, didn't know that we were doing a multi-universe shared thing.
Do you want to know something that just blew my gosh dang mind?
Okay.
So like I said, it's been a while since I read Six of Crows. The main character, Kaz Brekker, when he showed up in the show, I went, why does he look like he's 12? And I messaged a friend of mine who's also a fan of...
And you found out that he's 11 in
Grishaverse.
this series.
No. I was like, they cast Kaz Brecker as a 12-year-old Ben Shapiro. And she responded with, well, they actually made him 28 for the show, and he was 17 in the book. And I went, no, that can't be right. I explicitly remember him as a hot 30-year-old. Apparently I was projecting.
Oh, okay, yeah. No reason for Kat to project hot 30-year-olds into her fantasy stories. Which are different than putting the hot 30-year-old into her fantasies, which is something else that we cover on King of the What Now After Dark.
Let's make it less weird. What have you been reading, watching, listening to?
So a lot of new seasonal animes have come out. If you watch, the big YouTubers that talk about anime, you know that Gigguk and Mother's Basement both come out with what to watch kind of recommended lists. So I personally have been enjoying Vivy Fluorite Eyes, I think is the full title. Fluorite Eyes. It is a kind of time travel story about an AI cyborg pop idol who wants to save the world from a robot revolution. I think there's about 6 episodes out now, and I think there's going to be 12 or 13 total, and I'm very curious to see if the plot does a sharp left turn, because Kat and I have both been kind of going, what if one of these characters is lying about their motivation? And maybe in the, near the end of the series, I don't know if it's going to be a one-shot or not, but we wonder if maybe the narrative is going to switch perspectives a little.
Yeah, and generally I don't care for time travel stories, but I am enjoying this one, which I think I say anytime we bring up a time travel story on the podcast.
You hate the principle of time travel stories, but stories are just made up of people, and so, if you like Vivy and Matsumoto, I think is the teddy bear's name, then you'll like the show even if it has time travel elements.
The first episode, I was like, this teddy bear's an asshole. I love him. And then the second and third episode, I was like, this teddy bear's an asshole. I hate him. And then by the third and fourth episode, whatever, I was like, this teddy bear's an asshole. Yeah.
He's just vibing, bro.
I'm flip-flopping and around. I'm flooping and swooping.
Oh my goodness. Now, I believe that there is a series from the seasonal anime list that you have been watching that I've only, caught glimpses of over your shoulder.
Yes. I have watched the first 3 episodes of Pretty Boy Detective Club. Now, Joel, there are 3 rules to the Pretty Boy Detective Club.
Legs for days.
Be pretty.
Legs, yeah.
Be a boy.
Pretty legs for a boy.
Yeah. Be a detective.
Oh, I detect some legs. Sorry.
There is an extremely leggy character in this anime. He's the Adonis is his title.
Oh, that's not his name. That they have monikers. Mm-hmm. Okay, I hadn't realized. But yeah, this guy is so extra. Anytime they need to raise their hands to show whether they're on board for a mission, he raises his foot in the air, of course. And he only wears shorts because he needs to show off his spectacular legs.
Yes, he swore to himself that he would only ever wear shorts.
So what about this show is most appealing to you, I suppose?
It's just fluff.
Okay.
I'm only, 3 episodes in, so there's not a lot of depth to it so far, but it's just the jokes are funny and all the characters are cute. So it's just, I was feeling really sad this week and it was a nice distraction.
Okay. They gave the main character kind of star eyes, the only female member of the detective club, and she's drawn very pretty. And the art style is gorgeous, regardless of who's being drawn.
Now, you saying, you bringing that character up brings me to a point I was going to make about this show, which is I'm pretty sure that it's trans.
Okay.
So the main character is introduced as a young woman who hates beautiful people, and she has these beautiful eyes, but whenever anyone comments on oh, your eyes are really beautiful, she gets upset and she puts her glasses on and looks away. And it turns out maybe there's something weird about her eyes going on. But at one point, the leader of the Pretty Boy Detective Club is talking about what it means to dedicate yourself to aesthetic and what it means to be a boy. And he says something about shonen spirit and you hear the main character's inner monologue, and she's like, that vibes.
Sure.
That,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And then in the opening, there's a scene where, like, the perspective flips, and she's a boy, like, she's presenting as a boy. And so I'm pretty sure that by the end of the series, she's going to be, like, full-time pretty boy detective.
Okay, yeah, I really like that, and I hope that they handle it well, and I hope that the fans don't get too upset.
I'm going to use she pronouns for that character until the show tells me otherwise, but...
Yeah, I mean, she still is a woman or a girl in these first couple of episodes, so if she transitions later, then we can say, oops, they saved that reveal for later. But at this point, even she doesn't know that that might be a thing that happens to her, so... Speaking of fans getting really upset about pronouns and trans issues and stuff, we've also watched the first couple of episodes of Land Saga. Is it Zombie?
Revenge.
Okay. The season 2 of Land Saga. It's a pop idol show about zombies, and Saki's the best character. You can't change my mind. I thought it was a weird way to start the beginning of the season. They did kind of like a mini time skip, and it just felt a little inconsistent, but I think they were trying to cheekily say that 2020 sucked, and they were trying to, like, bring that energy into the first episode. That's my reading on it anyways.
Okay, I could see that. I want to circle back really quick to what you said about Saki being best girl.
Yeah.
The legendary Tai Yamada is right there.
Tai Yamada is... Every time she's on screen, I just laugh my ass off. But until we get more story about Tai, so if anyone hasn't seen the show, seriously, it's on Verve. You should go watch it. It's really good. But there's one character who so far has not really been verbal in any way and doesn't really seem to be as capable of communicating herself, but she's there, and right now she's a gag character. Kat and I think she'll be more important later, but until I know more about her character, Saki wins just for being so wholesome and perfect, whereas Tai is the perfect comedy character. But I'm willing to change my mind. If she starts becoming verbal or in other ways communicative, then I'm open to hearing about that. And then also there is a character, I briefly alluded to this, there's a character who says something about, like, back when I was a boy or something like that, and the subtitles made it sound even less like it was maybe a trans thing, and there were a lot of people on Twitter last year when the show was airing, or maybe the year before, whenever it was on, people got really upset, and then some people who spoke Japanese are like, no, this is the watered down version. It's way more explicit.
Even transer. Well, and in that episode, they had one character wearing the trans flag as shorts, and this season, they've made the trans characters' hair clips like the trans colors.
Sure.
So, apparently that's really important to the mangaka, and cool. I'm glad that she got to put it in her show and nobody stood in her way. Or, I think it's a her.
Yeah, I'm really bad at knowing the writers of various anime unless it was a manga first, in which case I might, have some information on that. But no, it's a really good show. As I've said before, King of the What Now's official stance is trans rights and get more representation in anime, and maybe people will stop freaking out if it starts becoming more normalized. Lastly, I have still been playing Monster Hunter Rise. I don't have much more to say. It's a Monster Hunter game. However, I got to the Thunder Serpent Narwa, who before they started adding more monsters in was kind of the final boss. It was the hardest difficulty thing you could take on, and I really, really like that fight. In my opinion, and I might go into this in a longer kind of video essay format, but all of the other fights are very samey for me. The monsters all have different attacks and they have different elemental weaknesses, but for the most part, I beat all of them by hitting X and Y, and that's basically it, whereas the Thunder Serpent has its own stage and its own setup and its own unique way of being attacked.
Oh, that's wild.
And so I really liked it. Like, I was kind of like, yeah, this game's like a 6 out of 10, and then I fought the Thunder Serpent and I was like, all right, 7 out of 10. So, we try to only talk about things that we, enthusiastically enjoy, but I think that fight is worth it. I think it's worth watching someone play it if you haven't experienced Monster Hunter. But if you haven't experienced Monster Hunter, be sure to get a couple of friends who can help you out, because eventually you have to play multiplayer missions, and those take a really long time if it's just one guy. But if it's 4 people, pressing X and Y at the same time. It goes by a lot faster.
Plus, it's fun to play things with friends.
That is absolutely true.
Even if the gameplay is a little repetitive, if you have friends to play with, then...
Who can forget the day that my wife shouted on a Discord call, "Look at that fat Chongus"? I think it was something like that. Or, "Look at that absolute unit."
No, it was the Tetranodon reared up on its back legs, and I had been looking at my phone, and I looked up and saw that and screamed, "It's so fat."
Yes, absolutely. And that's become a meme among, our group of friends, so...
Our circle.
Absolutely. I think that's just about everything, so I think it's time to get back to the regular show.
Sure.
So, we just finished watching episodes 447 through 452, and as always, I will give you a succinct summary. Luffy is fighting Blackbeard. He's really upset because Blackbeard has been trash-talking, and Blackbeard's responsible for capturing Ace. Blackbeard uses his powers, but doesn't exactly explain them, or he doesn't explain them right away, and Luffy's like, what's going on? But Jinbei, being the voice of reason, basically says, Luffy, we need to focus on saving your brother, we gotta get out of here. And so they kind of go their separate ways. Blackbeard is attacked by Magellan, and seems to be poisoned lethally, and he's going to die. We'll come back to that at the end of the summary. Luffy and them keep running away as Magellan is in pursuit. So Ivankov and Inazuma both stay back in order to try to buy more time. They eventually get defeated. Magellan has all of the Navy ships that are still around just leave, which will strand all of the prisoners on Impel Down, which is in the middle of the Calm Belt, so there's a lot of Sea Kings, and so how are they going to escape? But turns out Jinbei is a boss, so he rips off the door to Impel Down and uses a boat, and he takes Crocodile, Mr. One, and a very out-of-place Buggy to go attack one of these ships and take it. While that's happening, Mr. Three's wax power is discovered to be an effective deterrent to the poison powers, so Luffy and him team up and create wax armor, and Luffy's actually fighting Magellan for a time, until Magellan reveals his secret technique. A poison so poisonous it can poison even the wax that was immune to the previous poison. So, creates this giant demon, Luffy and them have to run away, Luffy is able to very briefly use Gear Third and a giant wax wall to, push Magellan back, for a second, which gives them enough time to run away. Jinbei has summoned whale sharks, and Luffy and them are able to escape using their help. And then, all of the Navy and Impel Down people are like, well, don't worry, he's still gonna get trapped, he being Luffy and the other escapees, they're still gonna get trapped because the gates of justice are closed. But hang on, what's that? Magellan is in the control room telling them to open the gates of justice, and then immediately close it once Luffy has escaped. That's not Magellan, that's Mr. 2. And that's where the episodes end. It appears that Mr. 2 has tragically died, but Ivankov and Inazuma were able to go from the levels that they are on back up and meet with Luffy, and so that's the only named character casualty that we have seen. Mr. 1 still fine, Buggy and Mr. 3 are still alive, Luffy, Jinbei, Crocodile, all of them.
Somehow Buggy made it all the way out.
Absolutely, and he seems to have gained quite the popularity among these escaped prisoners, which is quite interesting. I said we'd circle back to it. Blackbeard is saved from the poison because Shiryu happens to have the antidote that he got from somewhere else in the prison, or he had it on his person. He probably went and got it. But, so it seems that Shiryu has joined the Blackbeard party, and they're still in Impel Down. We don't know what's up, but they have a mission, they're going to accomplish it.
And we'll get into it in a little bit, but Shiryu specifically is like, what would you have done if I hadn't come back for you? And Blackbeard's like, we're lucky.
Yeah, but you came back, right? So
that's important, and we'll talk about it. Joel, did you like these episodes?
Yeah, I like these episodes a lot. The wax armor combination for Luffy is incredible, and I loved it.
It was a Precure transformation sequence.
It really was. It was so cool. Luffy modified his attack names, which I'm pretty sure Oda has consistently done every time Luffy gets, a transformation of some sort. He had a special name for when he had the golden bell on him in Skypiea and that sort of thing. So That fight was incredible. I like that Mr. 3, who has a power where you're like, he's made out of wax. No kindergartner is going to be like, when I grow up, I want to be a superhero who has wax powers. Like, it's so random, but it works as the perfect counter, which is excellent. And Mr. 2's sacrifice was beautiful. I said before that Bonchan wasn't my favorite character when he showed up in Alabasta, and he's still not my favorite character, but the thing that makes me love him as much as I do is these scenes right here. He stays behind, and he, like I don't know if he wants to be called like a man, but like a fighter, like a person, he properly fights Magellan in order to buy Luffy the time, and like, that's amazing. That's incredible.
Absolutely. Well, and one of the recurring things you see in shonen is this idea of, like, this is my ninja way, or this is how men do things, right? Typically, this is how men do things because it's aimed at young boys. But Bonchan specifically, his whole thing is you can be whatever gender you want. Like, gender is irrelevant. And he says that he doesn't say goodbye because that's his gay way. Gays don't say goodbye. And, like, I think that it's cool that he still got to have that moment of, like, this is what it means to be me. But,
Absolutely.
You know, the way that he is. It wasn't, this is what it means to be a man.
Absolutely. This is a quick note. We don't need to go into, like, deep lore theories about what it could mean, but he did have an attack that was memories of a desert kingdom, which that's where he met Luffy, and so that's just really cool, you know? So I wanted to point that out.
Gotcha. When you yelled, Desert Kingdom, I didn't get that's why you were yelling that.
Oh.
I thought that you were excited because that's, Heartcatch Precure. The bad guys are from the Desert Kingdom.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, one of those times where we assumed we're on the same page, but we were on slightly different. But did you like these episodes?
Yeah, they were pretty good.
Okay.
It was very end of Arky. They got chased off the island and then they had a feast.
Kind of, yeah. Buggy wanted to have a feast, and all of his followers were having a feast, but Mr. 3 and Luffy are still mourning Bonchan, and when Buggy goes, he's dead, what's he's crying over it, Luffy just smacks him in the face, and Luffy is adamant that Mr. 2 is still alive. We're not shown the outcome of the battle. We are shown that there are antidotes that people can take for Magellan's poisons, but at the same time, it just seems like Magellan at this point, after having seen Ivankov survive the poisoning, after having seen Luffy survive the poison, maybe he will at some point realize that Blackbeard's still alive despite the poison. You'd think he would start hitting them with like 15 different types of poison and stop like James Bond villain, like, the laser will cut off your head in 20 minutes. I'll just walk out of the room and get myself a cup of coffee.
Yeah, you'd think he'd try like a knife.
That's the true power of Magellan, is he's got the knife.
Did we get any new information in these episodes?
Oh my god, we got quite a bit of new information. At one point, I think it's Bonchan, but someone says, like, oh my god, is the Minotaurus up again? I thought we defeated it. And Crocodile goes, those demon guards are awakened Zoan fruit users, which makes them tough and resilient. If we waste too much time here, the other three will also get up and chase us. Excuse me, what? So we get confirmation first off that the demon guards are all devil fruit users of the Zoan variety, which if we had thought about it and we tried to theorize, that makes the most sense, other than just these are monsters that occur naturally, like the Sphinx and the Chimeras and stuff. But awakened is a really interesting term. Kind of reminds me of like Dragon Ball Z. The Supreme Kai could awaken people's true power, so I'm curious what that process looks like.
Yeah, well, and like Chopper has a Zoan devil fruit, so what would it look like if Chopper awakened his fruit?
Well, and Chopper's a weird exception because, you know, with Lucci and Dalton and all the other people that we've seen that are Zoans, they are humans that get more animalistic traits. But Chopper is an animal that has humanistic traits, so if he awakens, is he going to be like a really brawny dude?
Would he just be a dude? Yeah, this is Tony.
Yo, what's up? It's your man Tony. He just becomes like a, like a jock or kind of a person.
Oh boy. Also, would that make Chopper more resilient? Even though humans are not more resilient than animals?
Yeah, so someone has asked Oda before what would happen if a human ate a human fruit, and he said that they would be enlightened, but he didn't really explain what that means. And I think there's different people who might have different interpretations. But I, at this point, would assume that if Chopper awoke his Zoan fruit power, it would have something to do with, like, super brain point. He would become smarter, not necessarily stronger or whatever.
Okay, I like that.
What do you think do you have any thoughts on what could be the process of awakening a devil fruit? Do you have to, like, close your eyes and meditate and go to your inner world like in Naruto and talk to the devil inside the fruit?
Yeah, have a Bleach moment. You know what I'm talking about.
The Kingdom Hearts moment. Yeah, absolutely.
No, I could see that. Maybe it's like in a moment of desperation, like the power breaks open inside. Like a devil fruit is an egg, right? So you have this egg inside of you, and when your passion is aroused enough, the egg cracks and the devil comes out and it's awake.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think that Oda necessarily needs to explain exactly how his magic system works. For example, we saw that Luffy could use his Haki to prevent Sandersonia and Marigold from... No, sorry, Sandersonia is their last name. You know what I mean. He was able to stop those two from killing Margaret and the other girls who had been transformed to stone. But if he had that kind of a power, why couldn't he have used that when Crocodile had impaled him? Why couldn't he use it when Arlong was attacking people? So it seems to be that Oda waited until a specific time for Luffy to get his power, and I'm very curious, like, what conditions had to be met before Luffy could use that psychic energy. But if Zoans have a specific way of unlocking their powers, then maybe there has to be certain conditions that have to be met. Maybe Chopper hasn't been in enough danger, despite the fact that he's been in plenty of danger already. But maybe when he gets to the new world, as it's called, the second half of the Grand Line, maybe he'll awaken.
Yeah, the other question I would have is this something only Zoans can do? Or
Sure.
Is this something that all types of fruit users can do? And if Zoans become more animalistic, do... Logia become more like their element? What happens?
They stop becoming
to
human.
Paramecia?
They just become... Ace just becomes a giant ball of flames. He becomes like a golem, from like D&D or something.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. So, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of Luffy's Haki powers, after Luffy has punched Blackbeard and he goes flying, Blackbeard makes a comment about like, oh, you're actually stronger than I thought you were, and he comments, your Haki has gotten stronger. So from this, I take it to mean that Haki can be sensed, but we've also been told that Blackbeard is odd, like Jinbei specifically says, even when he was under Whitebeard, he's always been a weirdo. And so, who knows what Blackbeard's deal is? But yeah, there must be some ability that some people have, or maybe it's just Blackbeard, to sense someone else's Haki level. And this also confirms that there are levels. It's not like an on-off switch. You don't have the ability or don't have the ability. Some people are better at it than others, which, maybe Luffy has this Supreme Conqueror's Haki, or whatever Boa called it. Maybe other members of the Straw Hat or other people they fought have other versions of it, but they don't have the Conqueror's Haki. Who knows? We'll have to see where it goes. Can't really speculate on this point because it does get elaborated further later.
It does?
Yeah, Oda, strangely enough, he comes back and he explains things that went unexplained before, which is why I'm still waiting for his letter to explain what happened to Pell, but that's a story for another day.
We mentioned that Jinbei summoned the whale sharks.
Yes.
So he can talk to sharks. That was new information in and of itself, but you also wrote down an additional piece of information.
I was thinking when we were watching these episodes, I commented out loud, did we know that fishmen could talk to fish? But I remember that we actually saw a moment with Kaney when they first met her right before Sabaody, where she was able to talk to fish as well. But Crocodile comments, I thought only mermaids had that ability. You're a bit of a misfit, aren't you? And Jinbei's kind of like, is it so weird to want to be friends with fish? And Crocodile goes, most fishmen are dangerous. So it appears to be some kind of like pacifistic ability. Like if you're a blood-hungry tyrant, you wouldn't practice the skill. But if you're, a little softer or gentle or whatever you want to call it, then maybe it's a skill that I don't know if there's a term for both fishmen and mermaids. I don't know if they have a common ancestor.
Wet folk.
Oh my god. But it would appear that yes, any of the wet folk can learn the ability, but it's more common for mermaids than anyone else.
We also know that mermaids are the fastest creatures in the sea, and Jinbei seemed to swim pretty fast. So maybe he just looks like a fishman. Maybe he's got a mermaid heart.
Maybe he's kind of like trans, but instead of for gender identity, it's like fish mer identity, wet person identity.
I have no comment on that.
I don't know. I was just trying to yes and you, but no, that was really interesting. And something else that I think is kind of interesting, I believe that when Arlong and I don't remember the name of the guy that Sanji fought, when they used their abilities, I believe they called it Fishman Karate, and now we have seen Jinbei use a couple of different techniques, and I believe that one of them was Fishman Jiu-Jitsu. And again, Oda didn't explicitly outline what the differences are, and I'm wondering if Jiu-Jitsu are like the more advanced techniques, or maybe they're maybe Karate is like big punchy, and Jiu-Jitsu is more like precisely controlled.
So I didn't notice the change in wording, so I just have to take your word on it, and I do believe you. But was Fishman Jiu-Jitsu what he used when he was in the water, whereas because he was saying Fishman Karate when he was fighting his way through the prison with Luffy?
Yeah, absolutely. So Jiu-Jitsu, I think, is the shoulder throw that he used in order to launch the door onto the ship. So maybe you're right. Maybe underwater is Jiu-Jitsu and maybe on land is Karate. From the wiki, because that makes great audio content, Fishman Jiu-Jitsu is another martial art that is practiced by the Fishman race, seemingly alongside Fishman Karate. It is an underwater style that revolves around manipulating the water around them as if it were a tangible material.
So yeah.
So cool. That's really awesome. Do you want to talk about the Marines about to fire their cannons, and Jinbei comes up like a little gremlin, just his eyes poking out above the water?
I mean, that's pretty much all there is. But wow, is Jinbei good. We talked about this, I think, but we were watching these early episodes of Impel Down, and we were like, why is everyone so feral over Jinbei? I don't get it. I don't remember what it was about him. And then we got to these scenes and I went, got it. This is why we're feral for the Cool Ranch Dorito man.
Absolutely. And he also was able to talk Luffy out of attacking Blackbeard because it looked like that was going to take some time. And Jinbei kept Luffy on focus. And so good for him, honestly. He's he's one of the smart thinkers among the group. Crocodile, kind of a smart cookie, but he doesn't really go out of his way to try to direct people. He's kind of a shit leader, actually. And so he wasn't going to say anything to Luffy. I don't know why Ivankov didn't, but Jinbei is kind of like, he's there for Luffy.
If I can just sort of segue into favorite scenes and quotes. Crocodile muttering to himself, "Why did you even come?" as Buggy is complaining about being thrown toward the ship.
Yes.
So good.
Oh my gosh. One, I alluded to this briefly in the succinct summary, but Buggy has managed to accidentally win the hearts and minds of all of these prisoners from the get-go. They get a call from the Navy. They called the Navy ship and they go, hey, we know that this outbreak was led by two people, Luffy and Buggy. And the prisoners go, oh my god, Buggy got mentioned, but not the Shichibukai, not Jinbei, not Ivankov, and not Crocodile. We as the viewers know that's because communications got cut off before all of those higher-ranking individuals were freed. But the prisoners who have a very specific view of history think that Buggy is being lauded as like this big mastermind when he was just he happened to be there. Buggy went with Crocodile and Jinbei and Mr. One because he figured it was safer with them than to stay behind where the scary Poison Man was, but they took it as a sign of bravery, like, oh, Buggy's gonna single-handedly save us a ship. They find out that he used to be on the Oro Jackson, and they didn't mention, like, as a cabin boy or as a pirate apprentice, I think was the official term, but there's just all of these things that keep happening that make them go, oh my gosh, Buggy is so great. And, you know, I still don't like him, but it is very fascinating the way that Oda has managed to take this character, and Buggy has never been untrue to himself. Buggy is still Buggy. Buggy is still the loud asshole who thinks that he's great but isn't, who thinks he can take on the world but he can't. He's still all the things that Buggy was back in East Blue, but now it's coloring him a certain way based off of the events that are happening around him. And as I said before, Blackbeard is a parallel to Luffy, but so is Buggy. And I mean, technically I think so is Kobe in a certain sense, because Kobe is rising through the Navy ranks, or we assume so, the same way that Luffy's rising through the pirate ranks. But yeah, I guess this is kind of where Buggy's journey, like, really begins. Could you imagine if Richie and Kabaji and all of those people, all of Buggy's old crew show up and they're like, Buggy, you escaped. And Buggy's just like, man, I got stronger crewmates now. Get lost, you losers.
Oh, man. Yeah, that would be sad.
At the same time, though, I can't see Buggy getting rid of anyone who wants to follow him because he, like Usopp, kind of wants the largest group to follow him. So
I had a realization watching these episodes. Buggy is Usopp if Usopp didn't have any, like, human feelings.
If Usopp was a clown instead of just, you know. Yeah, I really like that thought. You know, speaking of Usopp, this probably is not anything relevant. It might have just been coincidence, but there were 10 ships leaving Impel down, and each one of them had 800 people on it. That totals up to 8,000. That's the number that Usopp always says. He has 8,000 followers, so it could be nothing, but I like to think that it's purposeful foreshadowing and that by the end of the series, Usopp will single-handedly be commanding 10 ships on his own.
Oh my goodness, that would be really funny.
Isn't that great?
It's all the ships with the big cannons, and he's, like, directing his marksmen.
Yes, exactly, right? Disciples of Usopp, when, Oda? When are we going to give Usopp his own followers?
Oh man, hold on to that thought in, like, 400 episodes, because
I do gotta say, though, I don't know if it would make sense for Oda to give Usopp his own people to command, because I think that a lot of the times Usopp's growth comes from a point of view of, I have to do this. So if there were other people he could rely on, I wonder if he would slip from power or he'd stop progressing. At the same time, Oda could very easily just have the minions get kidnapped every arc, and then Usopp has to save them, and that's where his growth comes from.
Oh man, that reminds me of a friend who, in their D&D campaign, they rescued a sack of kittens, and everywhere their character went after that, they took this sack of kittens with them, and the DM always made them roll to see, are the kittens safe when I put their sack down?
Oh my gosh, yes. That's absolutely wonderful. Straw Hat crew member most likely to have a sack of kittens that they're carrying around. Would it be Usopp?
Frankie.
Imagine he opens up his chest opening and there's the bottles of cola, but there's also just a sleeping cat. And he's just like very carefully like, Mr. Whiskers, let go of the bottle. I have to refill, please. We're in the middle of a battle. And the cat's just sleeping.
Oh, I love that. Did you have any other favorite scenes or quotes from these episodes?
Kind of related to your favorite quote you were talking about with Crocodile being like, why are you even here? At one point, after they've all gotten on the ship, Luffy goes, hey, y'all, I don't know if it was Luffy, someone says, we're going to Marine headquarters. And these prisoners apparently did not know that was a plan. Buggy didn't know it was the plan. He didn't tell them because he didn't know. And they decide that they're going to take the ship by force, and they all start pulling out their swords and stuff. And Crocodile says it'd just be easier to kill them all as he starts preparing a sandstorm. So Buggy is once again able to corral them. He's able to be like, no, I'm going to go fight Whitebeard himself. Can't wait to see how that plays out, because Buggy can't even defeat Usopp at this point in the story, and we assume Whitebeard's a bit stronger than that. But, Crocodile and Ivan both kind of comment on like, oh, even Buggy has his uses. Even this idiot is able to convince all of these other people to follow him. But I just like Crocodile's casual, guess I'm going to kill some people. There's only 200 of them, one of me, I'm a Logia. What are they going to do? They don't know about my weakness.
They going to stab me? F them. I'm sorry for the second F-bomb in one episode, but I feel like it's appropriate.
Yeah, absolutely. Was there anything else that you feel like calling out?
No, not really.
Okay. I did like Mr. 3 felt indebted to Luffy and Mr. 2. When Luffy sees them, we should have mentioned this last episode, but he's like, oh, you guys are safe! And they act like they've been, stabbed through the heart because they left Luffy to die or something like that. That happened in these episodes, so never mind. We shouldn't have mentioned it last episode. This is the appropriate time to mention it. But, these poison, the Hydra snakes are coming to get Luffy, and Mr. 3 erects a wall, and he's like, I don't want to keep owing you anything, Luffy. And Luffy goes, oh, can you help me out? Mr. 3's like, no. This was like a one-time thing. I'm not helping you out. And Luffy eventually convinces him to put armor on him, and Luffy's doing some punches. And Mr. 3's like, all right, time to retreat. And then a bunch of other prisoners are like, we found cannons. Mr. 3, help us. He's like, seriously, I didn't offer to help. Mr. 3 is another character who has stayed true to himself and yet has been shown new depth, kind of, in these episodes. So, yeah. We're going to be moving on to, we're done with Impel Down. We get to move on to the next arc, which is all part of what has been accumulating to. I did have one quote that I wrote down that I forgot to mention. It is, right as Bonchan has been discovered, Magellan is going to attack him. I think it's a monologue. I don't think he says it out loud. I think it's an internal thing. But, the flower of friendship blooms even in hell. On the sand where waves come and go, it leaves its petal as a memento. We will make it bloom again someday. The oh come my way. We've talked about this before, and again, I don't know enough about the culture to know. I've heard that it's a slur, but Oda is using it, so I'm just going to be directly quoting the work that we're discussing. Okama is a term used by Oda to describe all of these people of different, some of them are cross-dressers, some of them seem to be trans, some of them are gay. So it's a double pun right there. And it appears that in Bond's mind, there's some kind of, I guess that's what he calls heaven, is, oh, come my way. And so he's basically saying, although I'm perishing, Luffy, someday when you die, let's have a party up in heaven. I'll be doing my dancing and you can eat all the meat that you can fit into your stretchy mouth.
I'm spinning and can't stop.
So that's just that's a beautiful quote, and I think that's gonna about do it for us today. We don't have any thoughts from the crew. Y'all are slacking.
Hold up now. I had a quick note.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah. So as they reach, what would you call that? The dock, the top of Impel Down, where
called the dock. Yeah.
And Jinbei tells them jump into the sea. This happened to Luffy at Eni's lobby too.
Oh my gosh.
Where he and his crew all had to jump into the sea, and they were saved by the arrival of a friend they weren't expecting.
In this case, it's a pod of friends, right? That's what you would call it.
Yeah. In this case, it's a group of friends. It's the whale sharks, and before it was the Mary. But is Luffy going to have to jump into the sea at Marine headquarters? Is that how they're going to get away with Ace? And who will the unexpected friend be?
Luffy's crewmates. They've somehow gathered themselves together in the time that Luffy was dying of the surgery, and they'll be there and they'll have built a new ship. I don't know why they couldn't have just gotten to go get the Sunny, but...
It'll be called the Oro Jackson 5.
And that has been your toot-toot-toot-toot final thought. Outro goes here. Thanks for listening, everyone. Next episode of the podcast, we'll be covering episodes 453 through 458. There's a bit of filler to finish out the Impel Down arc, and then we get a little bit of the first couple of episodes of Marineford. Have a great day.
Bye. Excuse me, sir. I don't mean to snoop, but has your trisitor turned to soup?
That's right. He touched the red goop, and now I have to go and take a poop. Poop, doop, doop, poop, soup. Poop, soup, goop, doop. Ha! What a great episode of King of the What Now, your One Piece podcast that started from the very beginning and stars these two doofuses. If you want to follow us on social media, Twitter is the best place to do that. I am at KOTWN_pod.
And I am at Pirate Ghost Host.
Absolutely, yes. We share all sorts of thoughts on there, some related to the podcast, some related to other things. But you can also reach us through email at kingofthewhatpod@gmail.com, or you can also find us on Patreon. We would love some subscribers or supporters, whatever the technical term is. Patrons. So fancy and grown up. And you can find that at patreon.com/kingofthewhatpod. You can find all sorts of things like bonus episodes, and you get to see the full cold open candidates, not just the ones that make it into the episode. Maybe someday if I learn to draw, I'll put stuff up there. We're always looking for suggestions and feedback. And speaking of which,
please take a moment to rate and review our podcast wherever you get us from. So iTunes, Spotify, Scrivener, that's for writing. But wherever you listen to our podcast, take a moment to leave a review. It helps other people find us. We are so grateful to all of our listeners, and we couldn't do this without you.
Absolutely. Word of mouth is super powerful, so if you have a friend who likes One Piece and they haven't heard of us, just direct them to the latest episode. And if they hate us, they can tell us why. And if there's an actionable item, we'll try to please you. That's how this works. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.